Hi everyone, good evening, namaste. Welcome to the 10 weeks of Yuktahaar project, and very happy to mention that we are done with 9 weeks of this project and we are stepping into the last week now. So really excited, and I hope it's been a great journey so far for everybody. Okay, so today what are we going to talk about? We are going to talk about sleep, right? Now, everyone who has read my book, since we are doing this project, which is, based on my book. So everyone who has read my book knows that I, talk about these 4 pillars of health, which is, your diet, of course, is the primary one, and then the exercise, and then there is sleep hygiene, and then the 4th is your emotional balance, which I call as neural retraining in my book. So sleep is definitely very important. It is not something which we can neglect. It is not something which can be, the power of sleep cannot be underestimated. And so somebody is saying Hindi में भी बोलिए, so I'll try my best to do a mix of English and Hindi. तो आज हम लोग specifically जिस स्लीप के बारे में बात करने वाले हैं. आज हम लोग स्पेसिफिकली मिड डे नैप्स के बारे में बात करने वाले हैं, जिसका मतलब है कि जब हम दोपहर में सोना चाहते हैं और डे टाइम स्लीप या खाना लंच करने के बाद हम सोना चाहते हैं, तो वो कितना सही है, कितना गलत है, किसे करना चाहिए, किसे नहीं करना चाहिए. सो वी आर गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट आफ्टरनून नैप्स इन पर्टिकुलर. If you just go by, of course there are always like Western concepts and there is an Ayurvedic concept, and अगर आप मुझे follow कर रहे हैं कुछ दिनों से, आपने book भी अगर पढ़ा है, तो आपको पता होगा that I always try to see कि दोनों के perspectives क्या हैं. What does Western medicine say and what does Ayurveda say about a certain topic. And most of the time मैं आपको दोनों perspective present करूंगी with all the factual, the factual statements, the facts which are there. So not my opinion, ये सब मेरे opinion नहीं है, but these are facts as as I'll be talking about these perspectives. So let's get into the Western perspective first. If you go by, so there are very few people in this world who are really researching on sleep. Matthew Walker is the name of a neuroscientist. He is actually a sleep scientist. वो एक ऐसे साइंटिस्ट हैं जो सिर्फ स्लीप के बारे में रिसर्च कर रहे हैं for many decades. And he is a TED speaker. He has written a book. So if you want कि भाई बुक पढ़ना चाहते हैं स्लीप के बारे में, his book name is an international bestseller. The name of the book is Why We Sleep. You must read that book. मैंने अपने बुक युक्ताहार में भी उनके बुक को कोट किया है मेरे स्लीप सेक्शन में. So getting to the point, Matthew Walker, when during one of his interviews, during many TED talks, whenever he is asked कि भाई आप अपने top 3 guidelines बताओ जो उन लोगों को फॉलो करना चाहिए जो रात में अच्छे से सो नहीं पाते हैं. So here firstly let us define what a good night sleep is. Is a good night sleep का मतलब कि 10 घंटे सोना वही good night sleep है? That is not the case. According to a lot of research, according to what even Mr. Matthew Walker would insist and would approve, is that a good night sleep is the one जिसका मतलब है कि आप बिस्तर पे लेटे और 30 मिनट के अंदर अंदर आपको effortlessly नींद आ जाए. अगर आपको 30 मिनट से ज्यादा लग रहा है नींद आने में, that means there is a problem with your sleep hygiene. The second sign is कि अगर आप जब सो गए हैं रात में तो आप बार बार उठे नहीं. You are having a continuous deep sleep without any interruptions. So इसका scientific name है वासो, which is waking up after sleep onset, WASO. So you should not be facing vaso. If you do not face any waking up once you sleep, then you are having a good sleep hygiene. And the third is that when you wake up, you feel very fresh. You don't feel tired and lethargic, and you don't feel like, putting the alarm on snooze. You feel like really active and alert. So these are the 3 signs that we know is a sign of a good night sleep. रात के sleep के अच्छे signs हैं. So the Western science says that अगर आपके ये रात के sleep because the night sleep is much more important. रात का sleep जो है that is something that you cannot compromise at all. you cannot negotiate on it, you cannot negotiate on the quality of it, so you have to have a good night sleep. लेकिन अगर आपके दिन में सोने से आपके रात के नींद के क्वालिटी को हैम्पर हो रहा है, दैट मीन्स आपको अपने दिन के स्लीप को रिकंसिडर करना चाहिए. सो दिस इज व्हाट वेस्टर्न साइंस सेज. Until and unless आपका रात का नींद अच्छा हो रहा है the way we want, the 3 signs that I said, okay, maybe you can consider a day sleep. But for most of us, for 99% of the population, जो लोग दिन में सोते हैं वो लोग हैं जिनको रात में अच्छे से नींद नहीं आ रही है. So they are either early risers या रात में अच्छे से नहीं सोए हैं. Most of them are habitual insomniacs और habitual late night sleepers, and then they think कि morning में चलो दिन में सो जाते हैं and compensate हो जाएगा. So that is something that even the Western science dismisses, saying that you cannot compromise on the quality of your sleep. It cannot be 12 in the night. It has to be at a good time, say 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. There shouldn't be waking up once you sleep. You should be able to sleep within 30 minutes of lying down. And so these are the signs. Just a second. Okay, I'm so sorry for this. So these are the signs that we need to consider, and this is about the Western science. Now let us come to the Indian concept and the Ayurveda concept. So firstly, let us talk about the ancient texts. The ancient texts have time and again, आप कितने भी मैं टेक्स्ट के नाम गिना सकती हूँ, they have time and again clarified that if you indulge in excess sleep or even no sleep at all, so if you're sleep deprived or you're having excess of sleep, then that's a destroyer of your happiness, your health, and almost alike to the goddess of death. So this is what the ancient texts say. Even in Bhagavad Gita, they have mentioned the word Yuktahaar, which is the title of my book. It's in chapter 6, and that shloka very significantly says that there has to be moderation in sleep. Moderation in sleep का मतलब ये नहीं है कि सोते रहो, इसका मतलब ये है कि there shouldn't be any excess and there shouldn't be any deficiency. Which means कि अगर आप रात में अच्छे से सो रहे हैं already, what if you're sleeping in the day, it automatically becomes an excess. If you slept in the night time, that is when as humans we are expected to sleep. अगर आप उतना सो चुके हैं, then anything that you're doing after that in the daytime is actually an excess and not really great. So this is about the ancient texts. And now coming to Ayurveda. Before I start speaking about Ayurveda, I received a few DMs asking about the Ayurvedic concepts, where they originate from, etc. So Ayurveda शब्द में ही वेदा है, आयुर plus वेदा. So Ayurveda is not a science which where people can say that this is my personal opinion. जो भी आयुर्वेदा आचार्य है, they may be teachers in colleges, they may be lecturers, or they may be physicians who are practicing, they all have read these classical Ayurvedic textbooks and they follow that till today, right? So how we have our Vedas, we have the Atharva Veda, Rig Veda. Similarly, Ayurvedic textbooks are there because Ayurveda is not, it's called an Upaveda. If you really go to the depth, Ayurveda is actually known as the Upaveda, which means that it is not like a external imposition, but it is the part and parcel of the main body of the Vedas. राइट तो जब ये ऐसा साइंस है जो कि बहुत एंशियंट है, बहुत ट्रेडिशनल है, बहुत करेक्ट है, देन ऑब्वियसली इनके टेक्स्ट बुक्स हैं, अष्टांग हृदयम, चरक संहिता, दीज आर ऑल आयुर्वेदिक टेक्स्ट बुक्स जिनमें ये सारी चीजों का वर्णन किया गया है. श्लोक्स हैं, बहुत सारी चीजें बताई गई हैं कि कैसे दिनचर्या होना चाहिए, कितने बजे सोना चाहिए, दिन में सोना चाहिए या नहीं सोना चाहिए. सो वट एवर आई एम गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट द आयुर्वेदिक पर्सपेक्टिव इज नॉट माई पर्सपेक्टिव, इट इज द पर्सपेक्टिव विच इज कमिंग आउट फ्रॉम दीज टेक्स्ट बुक्स, और यही पर्सपेक्टिव ऑल ओवर द आयुर्वेदिक कम्युनिटी इज फॉलोड. So it's completely your choice if you want to live the Ayurvedic lifestyle or not, but per se the Ayurvedic lifestyle in itself cannot be questioned. Of course it is your choice if you want to live that lifestyle or not, right? So what does Ayurveda say about daytime sleep? So coming to the point, so Ayurveda also, like the Western science, says that sleep is important, yes, बट द नाइट टाइम स्लीप इज वेरी डिफरेंट फ्रॉम द डे टाइम स्लीप. उसका क्वालिटी अलग होता है, उसके इफेक्ट्स अलग होते हैं. तो हम दोनों को इक्वेट नहीं कर सकते हैं कि नाइट टाइम स्लीप जो है वो डे टाइम स्लीप के बराबर है, ऐसा नहीं है. एंड आयुर्वेदा ऑल्सो डजंट गिव, it has its own pros and cons. So if you go and ask, suppose you go to an Ayurvedic doctor and you are say 30 years old or something, and you ask your doctor ki bhai can I sleep in the daytime, 99% chances are this that your doctor will say no. But if suppose you ask can my mom sleep, and your mom happens to be say 70 years old, and you ask her can my mom sleep in the daytime, 99.9% chances are this that your doctor is going to say ki yes, your mom can sleep. So what I'm trying to say is कि आयुर्वेदा में हर चीज का कोई yes and no नहीं होता है. हर चीज का इट डिपेंड्स कि आप किसके बारे में बात कर रहे हो, आपका क्या प्रकृति है, आपका क्या बॉडी है, आपका क्या उम्र है. मेनी थिंग्स आर देयर एंड आई एम गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट ऑल ऑफ देम. बट नो दिस that sleeping in the daytime is not recommended in Ayurveda for most of the healthy adults. Ayurveda says कि most of the healthy adults are not going to benefit by sleeping in the daytime. In fact, वो counterproductive हो सकता है because it can become a cause for many other diseases. Right? At the same time, sleeping in the daytime can be good for a certain category of people, which are of course exceptions, and I'm going to tell you about those category of people, right? But by large it is not recommended कि आप habitually रोज के रोज दिन में सो रहे हैं, right? So I'll tell you the reason what Ayurveda says, and then I'll tell you about the categories of people who can sleep in the daytime, who cannot sleep in the daytime. और अगर आप हैबिचुअली नहीं सो रहे हैं दिन में, पर अगर आप टायर्ड हैं तो क्या हैक्स हैं so that you can feel great on a certain day, on a certain afternoon. So these are the things that I'm going to talk about. So firstly, in these classical texts that I mentioned, shlok हैं on midday naps, on night sleep. And what it says is that कि अगर आप रात में लंबे समय तक जगे रहते हैं, if you're staying awake in the night, then it causes body dryness. Body dryness, I'm just not talking about the skin dryness, but even inside it causes drying, which is because the vata gets aggravated. Therefore, of course, it emphasizes that nobody should stay awake in the night for a long time. And I have posted the Ayurvedic clock. I have done live videos about the Ayurvedic clock, and I've spoken about it, that everybody should try to sleep between 10:30 in the night or 10 to 11 in the night. Why? Because if you stay awake in the night, तो वो आपके वाता को aggravate कर सकता है, which can cause a lot of drying in the body. And वाता aggravate होने से अपने आप में बहुत सारे diseases हो सकते हैं. So all the joints pain, all these even the mental imbalances, these are all vata aggravation symptoms. And we don't want obviously these kind of symptoms, so therefore it is important you sleep in the night. जो लोग नाइट शिफ्ट्स करते हैं, जो बहुत लंबे समय तक जगे रहते हैं हैबिचुअली इन द नाइट, बिकॉज द बॉडी गेट्स सो ड्राइड अप, मोस्ट ऑफ द आयुर्वेदा आचार्यास उनको फिर नाइट शिफ्ट खत्म होने के बाद उनको नेक्स्ट डे अभ्यांगम प्रिस्क्राइब करते हैं फॉर फ्यू डेज. अभ्यांगम इज नथिंग बट ऑयल मसाज ऑन द बॉडी, बिकॉज दैट इज द नेचर ऑफ यू स्टेइंग अवेक इन द नाइट. इट कॉजेज इमेंस ड्राइनेस. ऑन द कॉन्ट्ररी, अगर आप दिन में सोते हैं, so we are talking about the midday naps now. If you are the ones who would want to sleep in the afternoon, you are wanting to nap in the daytime, and you are wanting to do this habitually, then daytime naps increases the kapha. It aggravates the kapha. And what is kapha? Kapha is basically, it increases oiliness, it increases secretions, water, heaviness. All of these things they start increasing if you are sleeping in the daytime. So I don't know if you have observed, but most of my clients, they say कि दोपहर में जब सोते हैं, उठने के बाद में I feel like having some cupcake, I feel like having some donut. Basically there's a sugar craving after you wake up from your afternoon nap. Most of the clients would say that my head feels a little heavy, lethargy, body feels a little heavy. So all of these is simply because midday naps is associated with increased kapha. एंड इंक्रीज्ड कफा के जो इफेक्ट्स होते हैं वो सिर्फ ये नहीं है जो मैं बता रही हूँ दैट देयर शुगर क्रेविंग्स एंड देयर इज लेथार्जी एंड देयर इज हैवीनेस, but also it is this that increased kapha can obviously lead to obesity. It can lead to weight gain because this is increased oily secretions happening when the kapha gets aggravated. Somebody has written that they get anxiety after the afternoon nap. So yes, the anxiety increases. That's also kapha aggravation sign. जिनको क्रॉनिक अस्थमा है, कोल्ड है, कंजेशन है, बॉडी में एडिमा मीन स्वेलिंग फील होता है, यू पिंच हियर समवेयर एंड एक गड्ढा बन जाता है स्किन में. सो दीज आर ऑल साइंस ऑफ एग्रीवेटेड कफा एंड इट इज रियली नॉट गुड फॉर most of the adult population. Also people who are dealing with diseases which is associated with obesity like diabetes, PCOS, all of hypothyroidism, all of these diseases which are associated with obesity, it is not good for such kind of people, right? So iska jo term hai, iska term है snigdha. This is called snigdha in Ayurveda. Snigdha means increased oiliness, increased mucus secretions, which is the aggravated kapha. And when we say that in the night what you face is drying if you don't sleep, that's called ruksha. So ruksha and snigdha, these are the terms, Ayurvedic terms which have been given. Therefore it becomes very easy to understand कि किनको सोना चाहिए दिन में और किनको avoid करना चाहिए. So I'm just going to come into that directly. There are 3 conditions in which they say that you can sleep in the midday. Number 1, if the person is underweight, if the person is malnourished, underweight, so that is one reason that the person can sleep in the afternoon. Very understandable, because as I said, there is an increased kapha when you sleep in the daytime, and increased kapha is associated with things that I mentioned. Therefore it can still be good for a person who is already underweight, because in that case the increased kapha is going to prove nourishing for that person. That increased kapha is going to help nourish the depleted organs. It's going to help nourish the dhatus, the tissues, and it's going to help strengthen the body of that person. So number 1, if the person is underweight, malnourished, underweight, and also facing certain diseases which are related to wasting. Now what are the wasting diseases? The wasting diseases are diseases like some sort of cancer, TB, AIDS, chronic diarrhea. These are all wasting diseases, and ये diseases अगर है तो इसमें afternoon nap करना अच्छा है. So that is one condition. The number 2 condition is for the children, and when I say children, what do I mean? When I say children, it means 0 to 5-year-old, because that is the time when they are building up. So in this case, the increased kapha is going to help build up their tissues. And also for the elderly. Now when I say elderly, what I mean above 60-year-old, because obviously उस समय उन लोगों का degeneration शुरू हो गया है, the tissues are getting degenerated, and we want these tissues to get built up, so it is okay for them to take an afternoon nap. And the third condition is for people who are heavy exercisers, like people who are football players, into competitive sports, lifting heavy weights, doing heavy physical labor, like say a farmer or a rickshaw puller. So all of these conditions, if it is there, then it is really nice for that person to take an afternoon nap, which can be taken post lunch also, but only in these 3 conditions, which I'll revise. For people into heavy physical labor, physical work like athletes, sportsmen, stuff, for people who are old and children 0 to 5-year-old, and for those who are undernourished and facing diseases which results into a lot of muscle wasting or weight loss, right? So these are the 3 conditions. Now most of us will not fall into these 3 conditions, right? Like I do not fall into these 3 conditions. I work out, yes, but do I work out like an athlete? Do I work out like I am like preparing for some competitive sport? No, I don't. So and my age group doesn't fall into where I have just mentioned, and I'm by God's grace not dealing with any kind of disease, or not underweight either. So most of us do not fall into any of these 3 कंडीशंस, तो हमारे जैसे लोगों के लिए आयुर्वेदा बहुत स्पष्ट रूप में बोलता है कि आपके जैसे लोगों के लिए हैबिचुअल डे टाइम स्लीपिंग इज टू बी अवॉइडेड. You should not sleep in the daytime because then your kapha will get aggravated. It can lead to many other conditions. Especially अगर आप overweight हैं और you are wanting to lose weight, or as I said facing obesity related diseases like diabetes etc., you should not be sleeping in the daytime at all. Even for normal healthy adults you should not be sleeping in the daytime, क्योंकि आज obesity या diabetes नहीं है, but अगर आप ये habitually करते रहेंगे तो ये cause of disease बन सकता है in future, right? But the question here is that maybe on certain day मैं रात में अच्छे से सो नहीं पाई, मैंने ट्रैवल किया एंड आई एम फीलिंग वेरी एग्जॉस्टेड. सो व्हाट डू आई डू इफ आई डिडंट गेट माय प्रॉपर स्लीप एंड नेक्स्ट डे मैं क्या करूं? क्या मैं सो नहीं सकती हूँ बिकॉज आई एम जस्ट फीलिंग लिटिल फटीग टुडे, right? So that can be a one-off case. We are not talking about that on a daily basis, right? जैसा मैंने starting में ही कहा, on a daily basis if you are one of those housewives who feel कि नहीं I'll wait for my husband till late at night और मैं रोज रात में लेट सोऊंगी और सुबह जल्दी उठ जाऊंगी क्योंकि बच्चों को स्कूल भेजना है और उसके बाद फिर ठीक है ना मैं दोपहर में सो जाऊंगी खाना खाने के बाद. So ये जो पैटर्न है ना, this you need to break. Ayurveda also says that if this has become a pattern तो इसको सडनली ब्रेक मत करना, wean it off gradually, धीरे धीरे come out of this habit. But this habitual pattern is not at all great. Yes, a one-off situation जैसा मैंने बताया that can be there where you just had a late night because you had some work deadlines for example. तो उस समय क्या करें? Next day what should we do? So 4 suggestions. Number 1 is कि हर बार fatigue का इलाज सोने से नहीं होता है. Before you start thinking about napping, what you can also do is try simple things like putting your legs up the wall. विपरीत करनी बोलते हैं. You can just go and check on the YouTube. It's very easy to do. अगर आप ऑफिस में हैं तो भी कर सकते हैं, कहीं पे भी कर सकते हैं. Even on your bed you can do. Just put your legs up the wall. So that is something that is worth trying. Or you can just curl up into a child's pose, जिसको बाल आसन बोलते हैं. It gives quick relief from fatigue. So before you think that सोना ही इसका एक solution है, try these many yogic techniques which exist to give you relief from fatigue. Number 2, there's a very interesting hack which is given in these Ayurvedic textbooks itself, and it says कि ये जो कफा इंक्रीज होता है दिन में सोने से, ये एक्चुअली तभी होता है जब हम सुपाइन पोजिशन में सो रहे हैं. सुपाइन पोजिशन का मतलब है हम बिस्तर पे जैसे हम लेटते हैं, पूरा लेट के जब हम सो रहे हैं वो तभी इंक्रीज होता है. लेकिन अगर आप चेयर पे लेटे हैं, चेयर एज इन रिक्लाइनिंग चेयर, सो अ चेयर विच इज रिक्लाइंड विच इज कंफर्टेबल, या फिर अगर आप कुर्सी पे ही बैठे हैं और आपने हेड को अपने यू पुट योर हेड ऑन द डेस्क, so basically you are sitting in you are sleeping in a sitting posture, then the kapha does not gets aggravated. ruksha means drying भी नहीं होता है, snigdha which means oily secretions वो भी नहीं होते हैं. It's a neutral pose. So on certain days when you feel that you really need to take some time off and you want to take a nap, I will say that just don't go and lie down on your bed. Take a chair which is reclining and you can just recline and take rest. Even sleeping is fine, but sleeping on a reclining chair, or just put your head on your desk. If you're in office, you can just put your head on your desk, on your working desk. So that is about the position. Very interesting. The first time I read about it and I discussed it with few of my colleagues who are into Ayurveda, it was very, very interesting for me that even the position of the body can dictate what kind of dosha or what kind of prakriti you will have. So that is number 2. The number 3 thing that they say is that you should never sleep post lunch, immediately post lunch. Now I know that every one of us love doing it. We want to have a good lunch and then we want to go off to sleep. But I'm sorry that I cannot ask you to do that. They say that the best time for this is actually after breakfast. And if you're following Yuktahaar, you would know that a breakfast is never heavy. So breakfast, when they say in the Ayurvedic terms, what they say is basically a light breakfast, right? So when they say after breakfast, it's because they understand or they assume कि आप ब्रेकफास्ट लाइट कर रहे हैं, तो छोला भटूरा पाव भाजी ब्रेकफास्ट नहीं है, पूड़ी श्रीखंड, अभी फास्टिंग चल रहा है तो पूड़ी श्रीखंड ये सब ब्रेकफास्ट नहीं है अकॉर्डिंग टू द युक्ताहार फिलोसफी. तो आफ्टर द ब्रेकफास्ट you can take that nap and before lunch. So the idea is that you're relatively on an empty stomach at that time, and उसके बाद आप सो सकते हैं और आप फिर उठेंगे, and उठने के बाद you can straight away go for lunch. So basically it's like before the lunch and not after lunch. तो ये this is my third point. A very interesting thing, when I went to Rishikesh, I think 3 years back, there was this yoga festival, and there was, so there, in the yoga festival there are many different classes. You know, एक इसका क्लास है, एक आयंगर योगा का है, एक इसका है, एक कुंडलिनी का है. So there are many classes simultaneously going on. So because there are like almost like 50-60 classes simultaneously going on, हर class में attendance is kind of divided, right? Because the participants are that much and there are so many classes. So हर class में वो participants divide हो जाते हैं. But on the days when they used to have the Yog Nidra class, and it used to be immediately after they used to serve us lunch, that Yog Nidra class used to be packed, like jam packed, like participants used to come and they would not find the space to even roll out their mats. So it used to be very funny because even the teacher used to laugh that, you know, it's post lunch and everybody just wants to sleep. Nobody is here to learn the Yoga Nidra, but everybody just wants to sleep. So anyways, but that's not how we should be doing it. Yeah, just because I have told this in a funny way doesn't mean that we need to be doing that. We should not be doing that, as I explained. And the fourth point is about the season. As you know, Ayurveda always emphasizes and changes the techniques according to the season. So Ayurveda gives the permission for healthy adults, like people like you and me, and you know, healthy adults who do not fall into the other category, जिसका बात मैंने पहले किया था. Even those people, they can sleep in the summer season. The summer season, which would say start from April. Now it's going to start very soon, so it would start say from April and end till maybe June. So that period, that summer season, is still okay for healthy adults to indulge in the midday nap. But otherwise, in any other season, no, you should not do it. As I explained, if you do feel fatigued, then try the other points which I mentioned. So I think I covered all the points, and there are a few questions that I would like to take. And I am going to put all of these points that I mentioned, I am going to put it in the caption. So Twinkle Shivani, I'm going to put all these points in the captions so you can just read it off from the caption itself. Twinkle says, I have always slept after coming from school. That's great. I mean, I don't know what your school timings are, but yeah, I mean, if you are sleeping after coming from school, तो फिर आप school से आइए and then सो जाइए, and उठने के बाद then you proceed for your lunch. I don't know what are your timings for the school, but I'm just assuming that you're coming back a little early. So okay, these were my points, and I am going to post the feedback form also once I'm done with this video and I post this video. I'm very soon going to post the feedback form, and there's only 1 week remaining of this project. I'm going to meet you again next Thursday, which will be the last live session as far as this project is concerned. So please fill up the feedback form so that we can try something different during the last live. Maybe I can take more questions depending on what questions come in the feedback form. Thank you so much for your time. I'll see you next week.